All right, so here is a chance to talk spoilers. I am ready to talk spoilers in this video. So if you have not seen Spider Man No Way Home, this is your cue to leave. Why are you here? Just go see the movie and then come on back here and then we can talk about the spoilers. Go see the movie. What are you waiting for? Go, 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 go. And if you want to know my thoughts on the movie, the spoiler-free video is on my channel, so go check that out. Now we're ready to talk spoilers. That's your warning. Okay, this is your key to leave. Go. Okay. Now I gotta start off with that Matt Murdock cameo. Like, okay, people were speculating that that was gonna happen, and I thought, no, I don't want to get my hopes too high on that one. And then when we saw him, and then wow, I was speechless, and then everybody else in the theater was like, "Oh!" And I was just like, "This is really happening." Oh, and it was so cool to see him there, and just to give us a cool little reminder of who he is and what he can do, that he's Daredevil and such. When someone threw a brick and in the apartment, in Peter Parker's apartment, and Peter was about to grab the brick right at the same time that Matt actually grabbed it, and it was crazy. Everyone was like, "Oh!" and that was so cool to watch. Yeah, man, I am glad that they're making those Netflix characters canon, at least Daredevil canon to the MCU. I feel like they all should be. Like all those Netflix Marvel shows that got axed. Like, let these characters make their way into the MCU. Like come on. Like that was just freaking cool. And then now we get to oh man, now we get to the villains. Like, we knew that the villains that they introduced, that they saw in the trailers, like Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Electro, Sandman, Lizard. Well, the ones they primarily focused on was Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and Electro. And Sandman and Lizard kind of took a back seat, but still, it was still cool to see them all together in this Doctor Strange, like, super villain petting zoo or whatever, or super villain zoo that he had, where they're all contained. So when it's time, when they can get them back to where they belong, because it's the multiverse. And yeah, it was so cool to see them interact. Like we never seen these villains interact before. It was pretty freaking cool. Pretty freaking cool to see. And I know it is like so cluttered with fan service, like some people would say, but I don't care. I welcome it with open arms. And this is finally a Spider-Man movie that I walked out of the theater fully satisfied. That has not happened since 2004. 2004. It's been a long time. So I'm glad it took it was almost 20 years for me to be that satisfied with a Spider Man movie. You got some not so good ones, some decent ones, some good ones, but to this level, it's been a long time. Like, wow. Now we're going to get to, oh man, what everyone was speculating, that the other two versions of Spider-Man, which is Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. And when they were introduced, when we finally saw them, I was speechless. Everyone else went, "Oh!" I was like, "Is this really happening?" And then when you see those two interacting, and then Tom Holland interacting with them, and then it were like, I'm glad that they stayed in the movie a lot longer than I thought they were going to. I thought it was going to be like maybe 5 minutes. They're fighting together, and then boom, they get one little conversation, and that's it. And I'm like, man, I wish they could have been around more. I thought it was going to be one of those moments, like if that was going to happen. Well, I'm glad those two versions of Spider-Man stuck around longer than I anticipated. You know what I mean? I stayed away from leaks and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't know who. Who gets off on putting leaking a movie that everybody wants to see? Like, don't do that. Like, really, don't do that. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Don't be that dumb little kid. Like, just don't do that. And I loved how they all three of them interacted. Like from their heartfelt heart to hearts. Like when Peter, Tom Holland's Peter, lost his Aunt May, and I didn't see that coming at all. I did not see that coming. I was like, wow, and that was crazy. And how how they talked about Uncle Ben and then losing, how they all experienced loss and how they dealt with it from there on. And it was nice to get up to speed with these other two, like like with how Andrew Garfield Spider Man was struggling with that, and then he was just like so filled with rage since he lost Gwen. Spoiler alert if you have not seen the other Spider-Man movies, but like Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, and Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 from Sam Raimi. But yeah, and then we see, like how Toby Spider-Man, like, how he talked about, when he chased after the man he thought killed his uncle, and how he said that didn't make him feel whole, like when the guy ended up, like getting himself killed, falling out of the window and stuff, or chipping out of the window. And, you know, um, yeah, I mean, it was real cool to see that, like where they finally brought that, that very relevant fact to Spider-Man: with great power comes great responsibility. That very important philosophy that like Spider-Man had to be taught and experience for himself. And then for the first time, Tom Holland Spider-Man really, really, really experienced that. Like they didn't pull their punches with this movie. Like the other two are very kid friendly and stuff, but here this is more adult. Like okay, time to push that all aside. Like bets are off in this movie. Like wow, and I loved how, like I said, I loved how the three Spider-Man interacted. Like when, like when Toby Spider-Man is able to shoot webs, like that's a superpower of his, and the other two don't have that. Like in the comics, where Spider-Man made spider shoot like web shooters, and the other two don't have that power. And then they're just like, wait, you really did that? That came out of your wrist? Like what? And then, and then like they had to say, okay, so how does that work? Like, does it only come out of your wrist? Like, it was hilarious. I mean, like they talked a lot, and I love that they basically almost took everything, like Marvel slash Sony took everything out of the bucket list with these three versions. I mean, they were amazing, no pun intended. And how two versions fought aliens and then one didn't, and then he's just like, yeah, I'm kind of the odd man out. And then, oh man, and it was cool to see that Toby Spider-Man, like what has he been up to since we last saw him, and then he seems like he's much more put together, and things are going really great for him. And I thought he was going to hint at the fact that maybe, well, I mean, I guess him and Mary Jane are in a better place now, but I thought they would hint that, they would be married or something, or, they had kids, like they could have done that, but at least things are much better for him at this point. And then with Andrew Spider-Man, I think he's able to find some closure, just a little bit, especially when um, Tom Holland's MJ was falling, and then he tried to catch her, he couldn't. Green Goblin intervened, and then here comes Andrew Garfield Spider Man, and then he goes down and he saves her, and it was amazing. Yeah, it was so awesome. And then you see how that made him emotional a bit, and so I guess that did. I feel like that did was able to help him heal a bit, like from losing Gwen, and wow, I mean, like, in the villains, not only did the Free Spider-Man bring their A game, but the villains, especially the villains who shined the most, well, all of them brought their A game. They all did. And then, oh man, I mean, like, there's so much happening in this movie. I'm probably not going to touch base on all of them, and I apologize if I missed anything that you guys wanted me to talk about. Just talking about what stood out to me. And definitely the three Spider-Man, and like I loved how it was very Spider-Man relevant and didn't rely on the fact that it's part of the MCU like it has with like the other two did. I mean, it just got annoying after a while, like especially in Homecoming, like every 10 minutes or 5 minutes, like yeah, this is part of the MCU, part of the MCU. Ooh, Avengers, 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 and I'm like, the other movies didn't do that to this extent. I mean, like they had, I mean, it was much more subtle in this movie. Thankfully, much more subtle, and it focused more on the multiverse, and as it should. It was just fun to see all those villains interact, and it really worked. Of how like it was just the whole thing worked, and man, like when it got down to where all three of them had to fight them, it got so brutal, especially when it was between Tom Holland, Spider Man, and Green Goblin. Man, he was going so brutal on him for killing his Aunt May, like. And then you see the look in Tobey Maguire's Spider Man's eyes where he stopped him from killing him, and I almost thought he was a goner when Green Goblin stabbed him. I'm like, oh no, don't. Whew, close call. I mean, like he. Thankfully, that was not the case. Like, oh no, no. And yeah, and also we got to talk about how Peter makes that selfless sacrifice to let people forget his identity, but also he also also when where people forget who Peter Parker is, like his friends, MJ, like everybody alive will not remember Peter Parker. Like that is deep. Like I felt so bad. I feel so bad for Peter. Like wow. Like okay, he fixed, like he fixed his problem. Like he made a mess and he fixed his mess, and like I guess that was like a bit of a repercussion, like where they have to forget who he is. Not only that he's Spider Man, but that Peter Parker. Period. Like, like it breaks my heart even more looking back on that. Like, it's crazy, crazy. And then we got to talk about that mid credit scene where we see Eddie Brock and like Slash Venom, and I guess the bartender's getting him up to speed on the like Thanos and everything that's going on and such and such. And then he disappears along with everyone else that came into the multiverse. That like from the multiverse, he was a part of that. He disappeared too, like everybody else that came in from like other worlds. And I'm like, oh no. There goes that missed opportunity, and then we see a little bit, or at least a little bit, of the symbiote, and I guess that's hinting that it could come into play in another Spider-Man movie. I mean, they just have to do that. They just have to do that, especially with everything that Peter is going through. He is in a dark place right now, and he's pushing through it, but he's gonna he's gonna slip up at times. So what I mean, this is a good way for the symbiote to come into the play and then get on his suit and then feed off of his rage, his pain, his anguish, his agony. Like from having to do this. I mean, like, wow. And then yeah, I gotta talk about that trailer for oh wow, for Doctor Strange in the Madness of the Multiverse. Um, I hope I said that title right. I think that is, or the Multiverse of Madness, or the Madness of the Multiverse. But you get what I mean. Like Doctor Strange's second movie. Wow, that looks so insane. That looks so insane, especially when we see the evil Doctor Strange at the very end from What If. Like, wow, they're gonna bring that to the movie. I am so glad. I'm really looking forward to this movie after seeing that. Like, for real. And we gotta talk about Peter making his own suit where he made it himself. It wasn't on technology or nanotech or any of that. It's just they kept it old school from like how Spider Man would have made his suit. And it looks amazing from what I could see of it. I really loved that he did that. I love that. I loved it. And I feel like the other two like the other two versions of Spider-Man was able to help him basically through the struggles of that loss, and like stepping toward that great responsibility. I mean, like it's like he really adopted that philosophy that Aunt May basically addressed in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, where sometimes you have to do the right thing. You have to give up the thing you want the most, even your dreams. I mean, he really did that, like, and it's crazy, crazy. Wow, this movie really delivered. This may be movie of the year in my book. I kept my expectations in check, and I walked out of that theater really satisfied. I haven't been this satisfied with the Spider-Man movies since Spider-Man 2, and that's like almost 20 years ago. Crazy, crazy. Woo! What a good ass movie. What a great movie. And I have to mention, like, when you see them swinging together, it was so awesome. I loved it. I loved how, like, we were able to catch up with the other two versions of Spider-Man, like one last time, since they were abruptly ripped away from us. And I didn't realize how much I missed Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man until I saw him. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was so glad to see him. I mean, I liked him. I didn't realize how much I missed him until I saw him on screen. And I definitely miss Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Definitely. So it was great to see those two together with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Man. Definitely the best movie, standalone Spider-Man movie in the MCU. Definitely. Now, if they keep it like this, when they decide to make more Spider-Man movies, and they keep it more focused on Spider-Man, how Iron Man's movies keep it focused on Iron Man. Captain America's movies keep it focused on Captain America. Same thing with Thor and his movies, and Guardians of the Galaxy with their movies. Like, that's how they should do it. You can leave a little wink of other characters here and there, but keep your focus on the character's movie. Like, definitely. Like, wow. What was you? I mean, feel free to tell me your favorite moment in Spider-Man: No Way Home. I couldn't pick just one. There were so many of them. So many of them. I love this movie. Love this movie. So, yeah. Wow. Woo. But yeah, if you like this video, make sure you thumb it up and click subscribe. If you're new to the channel, click that notification bell so you can be updated on my latest videos. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, guys, take care, stay safe, stay amazing. Peace out.